Hey everyone, this is BroTalk, open dialogues about money, life, and mind. Thank you so much for joining us here on another episode. If you haven't, please like this video, share this with your friends and family. Today we're going to be talking about inflation. And I know this can be a very confusing topic for many of you. We're going to talk about inflation, what causes it, what happens when there's high inflation, low inflation, and what can you do about it if you're in the middle class or if you're poor. What can you do about it to hedge, to fight against inflation in your own personal life? So we're going to talk all about this, the inflation that we have now, that started a couple of years ago from COVID. Was it Biden's fault? Was it Trump's fault? What's the evidence and why? We're going to talk about all this, guys. Join us on this conversation. Join us.
Inflation. Well,
Yes.
Inflation is known to affect everybody, but I feel like not a lot of people know about it, talk about it. It's like we always say, "Oh, inflation, right?" Because that's like the media, the hot thing to say right now, right? Oh, inflation is this, inflation is that. It's hurting my pockets, right?
Oh, I hear that all the time.
Right, but do we truly understand how inflation starts, how inflation goes about, right? Where did it, come from to get to this place that we're at right now, right? So those are the questions that we need to ask ourselves. Plus, what do I do during times of inflation? Especially if you're in the middle class, if you're at the poverty level, what can I do to be able to survive, to save money? While this phase of inflation passes by. So I guess the first question to ask is what is inflation? How would you describe it?
Very simply, because again, this topic can be overcomplicated.
Yeah.
With big words and
We don't want to
political words.
It too much.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to overcomplicate. If I had to explain it, it's when prices of things increases, and the currency, the country's currency, the value of it goes down. Right. Basically, if I had to make it short. I also think it's important, before we get into it, and I don't know what you think, that yes, this is a word that's thrown around 1,000 times a day, especially now. And trust me, I think you and I both feel the effects of inflation now in 2024. What I would say is that, yes, this is happening. But if you have a goal, or you're trying to make it out of the middle class or poverty, or you're trying to save money, you have a financial goal, you can't let this big monster stop you. Yes, I understand it's big, but I also want to say it's out of your control, right? So you can't use it as an excuse.
No, yeah, I would say for most people, it's out of your control. It's maybe there are problems going on between the U.S. and another country, which is causing the services, the goods that's being transported from country to country to stop. Yeah. Or to take a delay.
Yeah, I don't have control over that.
Right. We don't have control over that. So now the price of eggs is not $2 anymore. It's $6.
What? Per egg?
So those are things that are out of our control. And I guess at that point, we just have to learn how to budget better, especially when you go through times like these, and try to find ways to make a extra income. And I mean, there's plenty of ways of doing it. We've seen how, because generally speaking, it affects the people. How do we know it affects the people? Well, I remember when inflation skyrocketed around mid...
Like 2021, 2022?
2022. Okay. I would say mid 2022, because I believe inflation rose about to 7-8%.
9.1, yeah.
Yeah. 9%. I believe it peaked at 9, and then it just went straight back down, right? But it was generally around 7 to 8%. And it was a video I watched on social media that showed how the prices of goods, I believe it was a Walmart cart that you buy online. A few years ago, it was a reorder that this person was looking at. Whatever they saw, let's say the 30 to 40 things they bought, was at around maybe $150, $170.
And what year?
I don't know exactly the year, but it was definitely, I believe it was posted in 2022, and I believe he had done this order 4 years ago.
Okay, so 2018 versus 2020. Okay.
2022. So I guess he was comparing these prices, and at the time it was probably like $170, whatever he had purchased at the time. And when he tried to reorder it to see, compare and contrast the times, it was around the 400s.
Wow.
So that is times 3 almost, right?
Yeah.
Whatever it was worth 4 years ago, which is a big impact. Why? Because we understand that, especially during the past few years, I would say after COVID, right? Or when COVID started, all the way to, I mean, right now, I would say we're still a little bit in an inflation time, but the way inflation skyrocketed, it wasn't the same way wages skyrocketed. And I feel that's what impacted the people the most.
So definitely, I would say to go back a little bit. Yes, we are still, inflation is still high now? Yes. Is it better than in 2021 and 2022? It's better.
Yeah.
You're right. It peaked at 9.1%, and now we're down to like 3.1, 3.2, 3.3%. But usually the Federal Reserve Bank likes to keep it around 2%, right? But yeah, this is the thing with inflation.
Okay.
The example you gave, all the prices of the whatever at Walmart, they all went up, right? So when prices go up, what you were able to buy in 2018 is not the same amount you can buy now in 2022. Clearly, as this example showed.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times, according to my research, is that when inflation does go up and the prices go up, a lot of the times, as you mentioned, your salary or your wage per hour, either it doesn't go up at all, it just stays the same. So you're making the same amount of money, but your money doesn't buy you as much. Or if it did go up, it went up a little bit, but then it went back down, right? And that's what happened during the COVID. I forgot what year it was, but if salaries did go up a little bit, but then they went back down, but everything else stayed up. And that's when people really feel it the most. When they go to the supermarket, when they go to a movie theater, right? If they want to, they want to rent a hotel room. People are like, wow, a couple of years ago, it wasn't like this. Yeah. When you start hearing people saying
prices, all that,
that's inflation. That's inflation. But then it's interesting because then I hear people have a lot of conspiracy theories.
Okay.
Now, I'm not saying a conspiracy theory is a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, I know it usually has a bad connotation, right? I think the word conspiracy theory really started during the Kennedy era. That's when it really started, and it came with a bad rap. But putting that to aside, what happens is a lot of people have a lot of different ideas of why there's inflation, right? But people are not looking at the data. People are not looking at the evidence or like why it happens. Right? It's just so crazy because we have Google. We literally have everything.
We live in the time of
information.
We have access to everything.
But we're lazy though.
Yes, unfortunately.
We're lazy.
That's a different topic.
Yes, you're right.
But it's the truth.
Yes. So do you want to talk about what causes inflation or do you want me to mention a couple things first? And
mention a couple of things and then I'll get into it.
So when I was reading all the articles, watching a ton of videos, reading books, which by the way, I went back into my library and I forgot I bought this book like years ago. It's called How Money Works. It's like a good beginner book about money. And I remember reading it years ago. It's such a phenomenal book. And I saw it and it has like pictures and stuff where it explains everything. And I went back and I was like, oh, I forgot how great this book was, right? So I was reading this book, other books that I have. So basically what it comes down to is this. Inflation happens because of it could be a lot of things, but it really boils down to 3 categories. Number 1, I actually wrote it down here. Number 1, cost push inflation. Demand pull inflation. And number 3, because the federal the feds, the central bank, right? They start printing out a bunch of money. Well, quote unquote, print a bunch of money.
Right.
And we could talk about why they do that, right? So the first one, and you kind of mentioned in the beginning, and maybe you can go a little bit more into it.
Okay.
cost push inflation is all about businesses. Is when there's a business and the cost to make a product or service, something in the process, the cost to make it becomes more expensive. Right. So, for example, maybe it's possible that the raw materials, right, the transportation costs, as you mentioned, the gasoline, the oil, the aluminum, the steel, the whatever materials you need to make the phone, to make the car, all that gets more expensive. Now, why? There could be a lot of reasons why.
We saw during COVID, masks and gloves, hand sanitizer, anything hygienic go up. Like it was $50 a box of gloves.
Correct.
Unreasonable prices, but that's just what it was because at the time it was supply and demand. It was needed. But yeah, that's just one example that popped in my head when you mentioned it.
Actually, that example you gave is actually perfect for the second category because what you just said, there was so much demand for hygienic products, right? And people were crazy.
I don't know if I don't know if it was like that we didn't have enough or those people just took advantage because we it was in demand. But that's like an idea of what you were saying.
From what I remember going a lot of times to the supermarket or the store, and they would say we ran out of the products. So they would raise the prices. Right,
like on Amazon and everything.
And then Amazon raised prices. There were people who were reselling it on the streets. I don't know if you remember that. Reselling hand sanitizer and boxes of gloves and masks.
It was hard to find.
Yeah, it was hard to find, and that's why they raised the prices. They're like, if you really want this for your safety, right, or whatever, right, because of COVID, this is the new price that you're gonna have to pay. Right, when before COVID, it was probably less than 50%.
100%.
But they could do that now because of the demand. But that is actually called demand pull inflation, actually. But before I get there, I just want to finish the cost push.
Yeah, I thought that's what you were referring to.
No, but you hit the second one perfectly. Okay. So either this increase of raw materials, as I mentioned, or what happens a lot of times when there's cost push inflation, things get more expensive for the businesses. Okay, so what's the business going to do? If you saw, for example, right, that if you needed, for example, let's say, I don't know, you were the owner of a phone company, and now to make the chips of a phone, the materials was more expensive to transport or to buy the materials, what would you do with your product?
I raise the price.
Beautiful, good.
Because I want to continue to make profit. Because if I'm not making enough profit, then there's no money going in my pocket,
Correct. That's exactly. So that's what they do. So they raise the cost. Now, here's the thing, though. In a lot of industries, when when the product starts to get more expensive because it costs more to make it, the workers come and they're like, "Hey, this is not fair. We need a higher wage. Then we need more salaries."
Because it's like, I'm gonna raise, as an example, like you said, the price of the phone, but I'm not raising anyone's wage who's making it for me.
Correct.
Okay.
And the workers see this. They're like, "Hey, this is not fair. You're making more money, but our salaries stay the same."
Yeah.
So depending on what niche, if the and you're probably gonna know a lot about what I'm about to say next. If the workers have a union and the union is good and they're successful, they're able to make a deal, and then the wages get higher. So not only did the cost to transport or the materials to make the product get more expensive, their workers now got more expensive, and depending on the industry, now they're going to have to pay their workers more. So now more things are getting more expensive. So then eventually, what the business does, they move the new expenses onto the customer by raising the price of the product or the service.
Right.
And I think a good example of this. It's not really related to this, but I don't know if you noticed, but a lot of times when you go to, I don't know, a restaurant, right, the business will be like, by the way, if you're going to use a credit card, the processing fee, we're going to add it to your bill.
Yeah.
I want you to, because they don't want to pay that.
It's like a 3%. Yeah.
Correct. They want you to cover the processing fee. So that's cost push inflation. Now imagine this happening in many different industries or sectors, then everything's going to become more expensive, and that makes inflation go up higher. And what people don't realize is that when inflation goes up, right, when the prices go up, the currency goes down, right?
Yes.
So if the currency goes down, and you're probably going to catch this quick let's say currency goes down and prices going up, up, and up, are people going to spend more money or less money?
Repeat that?
So if the currency keeps going lower and lower, right? Because inflation is going up and up and up, right? Inflation is getting higher. So my dollar, I'm not able to buy the same amount.
You're going to spend less.
You're going to spend, beautiful. 100%.
You'd be stupid to be spending more.
Correct. So when inflation is high, people spend less money.
People become frugal.
You literally took it out of my mouth. And when people become frugal, what happens to the economy? Or let's say the majority of people become frugal. Not everyone.
Then,
and the economy, is it going to go up or is it going to go down? If most people are frugal. Again, not all, but let's say most.
It's going to go down.
It's going to go down 100%.
It's going to go down.
You got it.
And then there's like an imbalance at that point. And then inflation is at that point required, or it has to eventually go down for it to balance itself back up. Because if everyone becomes frugal and these businesses aren't making money, the only way to stabilize the economy is for inflation to go down, and then these businesses start to make more money because people start to spend more.
Correct. And at some point,
a little bit of a cycle, but yeah.
Correct. And there's just one thing, the businesses, you're right, because if people are frugal, they're not spending, the economy is not being stimulated.
Yeah.
People, which means people are not, they're not spending money, right, in restaurants, in movie theaters, in recreational, different industries. A lot of businesses, they can't invest in bigger projects, right? So it's not just hitting normal people, it's also hitting big businesses, investors, hitting everybody. And eventually, you're right, if inflation is that high, it's going to have to come down. Businesses are going to have to then lower their prices, because if people aren't, the businesses, they raise their prices, right? Because they have to. But then eventually, if everyone's frugal, they're going to have to lower their prices. And when they lower their prices, inflation kind of goes down too, and it stabilizes. But you basically said that. So correct. So that's only one way that inflation goes up. That's only one way. The second way is the one you mentioned, which is called demand pull inflation.
Demand pull inflation
is when basically when an increased number of people want something, and the supply, they can't keep up. So what are they going to do? They're going to a lot of times the businesses are not going to make more products. They're just going to raise the prices, because it's just a supply and demand. So when more people are buying something, a bunch of people are buying, I can raise my prices as much as I can.
I feel like they would still make a lot. They would just say that there isn't a lot to be able to keep the price that high.
Oh, so you're saying on purposely they wouldn't make more product?
No. Okay. Let's say we regularly make 100 carts of these per week, right? Mm-hmm. And now that it's in demand, I could continue to make 100 per week, but I could raise the price and say, oh, we're running out. Because obviously I don't have to show proof.
Correct. Yes.
Right? Yes. I just have to put a sign that says, hey, because of the situation that's going on right now, we're low on supply. Mm-hmm. We understand that it's high in demand. And then you see the difference in price, but you can still sell the same amount that you usually make for a higher price, just because it's in demand at the moment.
Correct.
Now, if you are low on supply because it's not coming in, you're obviously going to raise the price, regardless.
And that's what happened during COVID, actually.
Yeah.
COVID, factories shut down in China.
COVID fucked us up.
COVID?
Yeah.
100%. It was a global pandemic.
Yeah.
Right? And no, it's not like the world was ready for this 100%. No, it started to hit certain countries, and then it started to travel. And then when it hit America, it was like, wow, right? But that's what happened. Factories shut down. Cargo ships couldn't unload. There were certain products that it was hard to make because of materials. You couldn't get access to it. So it was like a mix of COVID. Also, according to my research, according to MSNBC and stuff like that, and other books that I was reading, also the war of Ukraine. Again, so many things can make inflation go up, right? But I'm just trying to connect these external factors with the cost push and the demand pull inflation together. This can make inflation go up. But honestly, for me, the most interesting one is the third one. Okay. Is that the central bank, the Federal Reserve Bank, which is the bank of all the banks, right? They're like the daddy of all the banks, yes. Right? Their whole job is to make sure that there's employment is high, that there's jobs, and the economy is stable. That's the whole point of the Federal Reserve, right? Now, the thing is this. The Federal Reserve has the ability to increase inflation, to make it go really high, and to make inflation go down, come back to normal, right? They have the ability to do that. Now, another way that high inflation happens is when the Federal Reserve introduces a bunch of new money into the economy, right? When they bring up, when they print, quote unquote, print new money out of thin air, right? It's not that they're really printing money out of thin air. They are, but the way they're really doing it is by computers. They write, okay, we're gonna make $1 billion new dollars, and then they send that to other banks, and then
that can be printed.
Yeah, no, eventually it is printed. Yeah. So it is printed out of thin air, yes.
It is printed. I would say it is. And that's what causes the dollar to go down.
So, you mean the
currency.
So,
because you're adding much more money
to new money to the economy.
To the economy that wasn't there.
Correct. That's what the Fed is doing. Correct.
That's what it's doing.
It sends it to other banks.
Wouldn't that lower, like, the currency?
So this is how you know you're smart. Yes and no. So yes, because what is inflation again?
Inflation is like when services and goods are like in trouble, basically.
The prices go up.
Prices go up. Yes.
And what happens to the currency?
The cost of it?
No, like let's say the dollar. If prices are going up, what happens to the currency?
It goes down, yeah.
It goes down. So you hit it spot on, but I just got to put a little caveat. Okay. Because you're saying, because this is what you're saying, the new money that the Federal Reserve is putting out, you said that the currency goes down, right?
Yeah.
And I would say, yes, but that happens not immediately. It happens in the long term. What happens is this. When the Federal Reserve Bank wants to stimulate the economy, they want the economy to be booming and people to spend and all sectors of industries they get richer and there's more money involved in the economy, because when there's a good economy, the country's doing well, right?
Yeah.
The way they do that is they lower interest rates, right? For, like, let's say a car loan, a personal loan, right? So
houses,
all that stuff. So what they do is they make all this new money. They're like, we're going to put this into the economy. How? We're going to tell all the banks, lower your interest rates, make money cheaper to borrow and easier to access. So when it's easy to access lines of credit cards, loans from banks to finance all types of things, guess what happens? People, and this is just a psychological thing. People say, oh, the interest rates are low. Let me buy. It's so easy. It's cheap to get all this money.
Yeah.
So you take all the money and you start buying a bunch of stuff. And if you start having a lot more money, a lot more easy access to money, what happens? What do you do with the money? You spend it. And when you spend it, that stimulates the economy.
Yeah.
Right? Now, at some point, when people are spending a lot more money, what do the businesses do?
Raise their prices.
They raise their prices, and then what happens?
The economy stabilizes itself.
So yeah, it's stable right now.
Right.
So businesses are raising their prices, right?
Yeah.
Right. And because all these people have all this new money or easy money,
and the dollar?
They're spending like crazy. And if people are spending money like crazy, the businesses are going to raise prices. And then what happens at some point? You've literally got everything correct here.
At some point, it stops.
Yes. Why? Correct. That's correct. At some point, this is going to stop.
Because interest rates have to go back up.
Correct. So you hit it. At some point, all this crazy spending that everyone is doing.
Yeah, because I can't keep it low the whole time.
No, you can't.
Low during the phase, and then we get back to a place for the economy
to be stable.
Yeah.
But just before that happens, right, all the businesses are raising their prices because everyone has this bunch of money. They're spending. Great, right? Great. Okay, everyone's spending. But then it comes to a point where the prices become too high. And then what happens to inflation? It goes up. And then prices become too expensive and the currency goes down. And then once that happens, the Federal Reserve Bank is going to be like, all right, guys, time to tighten things up a little bit.
Yeah.
And then interest rates are going to go where?
Up.
Going to go up.
So it feels like a wave.
It is a wave, correct.
A constant wave.
Yes.
And if you're trying to get a line of credit or a personal loan, you just have to follow that wave, where that wave is going, and attack the wave when it's at its lowest point, in a sense.
Correct, yes.
Because it wouldn't be a smart move to get it while the interest rates are high, because at that point, the economy, we've already gotten stable, in a sense.
You mean when the interest rates are high?
Are high.
That means inflation is high. Inflation high is not good. High inflation is not good.
Okay. So what would be an average
of inflation?
Of interest that...
Oh, like the interest rates?
Yeah.
So I think right now...
Because an average an average of interest rates would also mean an average of inflation. You get what I'm saying? Because if interest rates aren't too low, but they're not too high either, that would make the economy much more stable.
Yes, I see what you're saying.
Because, you know...
Yes, you're right. I'm sorry. I don't know why I got like a little brain fog. No, you're right.
I'm just trying to you're right. Separate things.
No, you're right, 100%.
So, but I don't know what the average would be.
So,
because according to my research, I forget the article, I believe in the past few years, we've printed out so much more money than what we did
in American history. Correct.
And I don't know. I understand COVID happened, and right now, obviously, the war in Ukraine, which obviously slightly affects inflation as well. I don't know if that's the greatest thing to
print more money.
To print more money, we've printed so much more money than what we've done in history at this point. Like, how is that going to affect us in the long term? Like you said, because you said it doesn't affect us now, but affects us in the long term, or affects the currency in the long term.
Correct. So, yes, these are good questions. So, yes, when the Federal Reserve Bank does this, it brings a bunch of new money, right? And we could talk about the COVID thing and what Biden and Trump did. Was it a good thing? I could talk about that soon.
We'll get to that right now.
I would say it is going to create high inflation in the future, 100%. But in the meantime, before we get there,
it fixes stuff.
It booms the economy. That's why, I don't know if you remember, but interest rates were very low in the beginning of COVID. 2019, when COVID came, 2020, 2021, those 2.5 years were the best times to invest, to buy properties, to take out loans, lines of credit, because interest rate was so down. Because what happened? People stopped spending. People were worried, right? People were indoors most of the time. And then when Trump...
The rich are getting richer.
100, and we could talk about that too. Yeah. When Biden and also Trump, because when COVID came, it was the end of Trump's presidency. And when Biden comes in, both presidents actually signed stimulus packages.
Yes.
And I think it was together like maybe $3 to $4 trillion together that they send out to the country.
Yeah.
Right. And we could talk about that soon. So they sent all this new money. And what happened? Everyone was getting the unemployment checks, the stimulus checks. So everyone got a lot more money. And what was happening? The government of course, the government sent these checks to help people in need because they weren't working. Right? So that's number one, to cover the basic needs. But also people started using this money and buying a ton of stuff. Spending did go up. People started eventually buying things. And I remember one of the things that was hot during the years of COVID, because I also got involved with it. I don't know if you know about this, Pokemon cards. People got Pokemon cards because of a couple influencers during those years, became super expensive. And what people were doing is they were using their unemployment checks, their disposable income, the increased disposable income, that everyone was getting to buy Pokemon cards, investing in Pokemon cards, buying and then reselling. Because I did that.
Yeah.
Because it was so hot, and I got involved, and it was exciting. Now Pokemon cards are still hot, but not as hot as back then. Right. But see what they did with this new money. People were like, okay, I'm going to start buying things. Let's get into Pokemon cards, or let's get into this, or let's get into that. Why? To stimulate the economy when COVID was happening and people were not spending.
Right.
So that's what happened. Now interest rates, I think, are like at 7%, maybe 6 or 7%. I don't remember. But slowly, I was hearing some of the reports. They want to start to lower interest rates. So you're right. You can always tell how inflation is going.
Yeah.
By the interest rates that the banks are giving.
The banks are giving. Yeah. I remember during you mentioned the Trump administration, and also afterwards the Biden administration, how all the stimulus checks they gave out at the time was helpful.
Yeah, it was very helpful.
It was very helpful. If I'm not wrong, it was an add-on of $600 of what unemployment was giving you. So if unemployment was giving you $200 a week, the extra $600 was giving you $800 a week. I know from experience, a lot of people were making over $1,000. Yeah. And you were unemployed. It felt great at the time. It felt like you had more money in your pocket because money was, in a sense, being printed and given out to the economy, right?
Without you working.
Because of the situation we were going through. I believe in Biden's administration, they did the same thing, or they continued it. And maybe that was the cause of how inflation went up, because I was reading in, which article was it? An article of the Wall Street Journal, how it discussed how COVID-19, the pandemic, the highlights of supply and chain disruptions and everything, how it says that the government stimulus checks were the primary drivers of this inflation. And I feel like we're seeing the effects of it, or we've seen the effects of it as the years pass. What do you think?
That's interesting. No, that's a lot of economists do say that from reports I read. I actually read recently an article that came out on MSNBC, right? And again, depending what newspaper or website you read, they'll have a different perspective, right? Which is, I think, is always interesting to read. So I actually wrote down some notes right here. It was an article from CNBC from July 11th of this year. So it was a recent article. And it basically talked about, was it Biden's or Trump's fault that caused high inflation? And basically the answer was none of them. It wasn't really, of course, when they both gave out the stimulus checks, it definitely had some working in the high inflation. But the article basically showed that it wasn't really, the stimulus checks weren't really the main causes of the high inflation that happened the last couple of years.
Okay.
So for example, they said, so 2 years ago, inflation was at 9% since 1981.
Yeah, it's been decades since we've had that high percentage.
Correct. So now, and of course, you and I both saw the presidential debate together. And basically, they both were blaming each other.
Yeah.
Like, oh, no, you caused high inflation. The economy was bad under your time. It was bad under your time, right? And so they were both blaming each other.
Yeah.
But what happened was this. According to the article, on July 11th, CNBC wrote this. COVID really caused it. But, of course, Biden and Trump policies, such as the pandemic packages, they did play a role. Now, and I have some quotes here. According to 𝘳𝘵𝗶𝘀, who is the director of Hutchins Center of Fiscal and Monetary Policy, and according to the article, it's a left-leaning source, so it's more democratic.
Yeah.
He said, in general, the presidents get more credit and blame for economy that they deserve. And I can talk about this later if you want me to.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks the president is really going to make the economy go up or down. According to this source and other sources I read, people blame or give credit to presidents a lot more than they deserve.
Well, yeah, they're like the leaders of the country. Like with authority comes responsibility, in a sense. So like, even I mean, you would have to look into see where is it coming from, but the face is usually that gets the blame.
Correct. But what he is saying, and what other sources are saying, is that because people are ignorant, and I'm not saying I know everything. I definitely don't know everything, but I've been learning a lot, just like you and I have been. And just what you said, exactly what you said. You said, well, you're the president, you have more responsibility, you're the face. But what this is saying is that no, the president affects the economy indirectly, but not directly. What really affects the economy and inflation and all that stuff is the central bank, is the Federal Reserve Bank. They do it directly, a lot more than the president.
Because, they're the ones that control the money.
Correct. Now, the president could have an effect, but it's going to be indirectly. And I could talk about it later if you want.
Well, I was going to mention an example of how it could affect indirectly.
How so?
If he signs, let's say, a
policy, a monetary policy,
a monetary policy into sending money to a war, or towards a country, an ally of ours, that's funding X thing, right? Would that be like a indirect way?
No, it definitely would affect it. Or like if the president, you're basically saying if the president wants to send money somewhere else because of a war, or he wants to raise or cut taxes, right? He makes the policy, and he passes it, and that can affect inflation. Is that what you're saying? And I'm going to say yes, but here's the caveat. Here's the but. Yes, but two things. When a president wants to pass something, it doesn't just happen immediately. It takes a while. That's number one. And that's if it passes, because
it's got to go through
it has to go through Congress. It has to go through the House of Representatives.
It has to go through the Senate.
And the Senate. Right. So, and depending on who the president is, then we have to see, are there more Democrats or Republicans in the House of Representatives or Senate?
That would lean more towards if it's gonna get passed or not. It's not a guarantee, but
no. If the president is Democrat but most of both are Republicans, it's not gonna pass.
This is a higher possibility of not passing.
Very high. It's not gonna pass unless whatever they do a compromise. But you're right, it's not gonna pass. So then is the president? So the president has all these great things he wants to pass, but the Senate and House of Representatives.
Right. We don't live in a totalitarian country.
Thank God.
Where
you don't want that.
Once I say we do this, we're gonna do it. Right. Things have to get passed through.
There's a checks and balances.
Checks and balances. Exactly.
Yeah. This is not Venezuela.
You see what they're going through right now.
Maduro.
He's rigged the election so bad.
He's rigged the election, and the way it's structured is that the president has control over the judicial branch, the legislative branch, the executive branch. So basically, the president can do whatever he wants.
There's no reason these branches should exist at that point.
They really shouldn't. Yeah, correct.
Because I can not only rig the election, but I could go after the people that are trying to are nominees or
go against you.
Right? So it's just
then what's the point?
What's the point? It's bad over there right now. I've seen.
Yeah, that thing. We're here in America. We were born here, and we're here, and we're not down there. Right, it could be much worse.
Some people, not gonna mention the president's names, but a lot of people wanted to do good, but because they don't have in their power or at the time Congress on their side,
or more people,
more people. Let's say, they don't have enough of their party, which is either Democratic or Republican, then there's not much I could do because not much can get passed.
You can fight. You can
fight it. You did. I tried. I did this. I did that.
That's true.
But if it didn't get passed, it's we blame the president. You didn't get to do this. Yeah, but I tried to go through the process and it just didn't go through.
I couldn't because I didn't have enough of my party on my side. So that's why the president indirectly affects, but the Federal Reserve directly affects the economy and inflation and interest rates.
They're the ones who have the power.
They're the ones who have the power. And if you want to know what's happening in the economy, that's who you should really be watching, see what they're doing and why, and go into more details of why they're doing it. The Federal Reserve Bank has the ability to inject new money into the economy, but they can also pull money out of the economy, they can also pull it out, right? So they can inject, they can take out, they can put in, they can take out, they can increase interest rates, decrease interest rates. They're the ones that can do it, and they do this with different techniques, right? To make inflation go up or down, right? But yeah, they're the ones who can really do it. But going back, right?
Yeah.
This is what 𝘉𝗫𝗀𝘁𝘢 said. So I just think that's something important, for us to know and for people to know.
Of course, yeah.
Right. The second quote is that someone else said it. Mark Zandi, who's the chief economist at Moody's Analytics, right? And I think he is more on the right side. He said, in my view, neither Trump or Biden is to blame for high inflation, right? You can't blame Biden, he said, because Biden took office in 2021. Right around the time inflation started to spike. So even when Biden came in, it already started. But he also says you can't blame Trump because COVID plunged the U.S. into a severe recession during Trump's tenure as unemployment ballooned and consumers cut spending because COVID happened and the world shut down. Yeah. So the article is saying you can't really blame either one, even though they both did send out stimulus packages. They said actually, and I have it here. So Biden did something called the American Rescue Plan. He sent out $1.9 trillion. So almost $2 trillion. He signed it in March 2021, and he offered $1,400 in checks, increased unemployment benefits, and a larger tax child credit to households. And he also set new import taxes on Chinese goods, on electric cars and solar panels. So all these things, he gave more money to the economy, right, with the stimulus package, but that didn't help. That did take a role, right, in increasing inflation. And the same source says that what Biden did, it added 2 points to inflation. But he says that even if Biden didn't do this, right, the U.S. would have still have had high inflation. But also Trump authorized 2 stimulus packages in March and December of 2020, because COVID started in America, I think, at the beginning of 2020.
It started beginning of 2020, the last month, the first month of.
Yeah, that's when
2019. 2019 is like when it officially started.
2019 when officially but not started, in America yet.
Not in America. America came around like February, March
of 2020.
2020. Yeah.
So that's when Trump authorized these packages. This was $3 trillion. So 3 plus 1.9, almost $5 trillion. Yeah. And he also added new tariffs on imported goods.
Yeah, so, on the Chinese goods, I believe.
Goods in China, aluminum, all that stuff, right? But so see, both presidents did affect the high inflation, but even if they didn't do this, the inflation was still going to go up. It was still going to go up one way or another. For so many different reasons, as we already mentioned, right?
So, if COVID would have never happened, would we had inflation?
If COVID would have, well, obviously I can't predict the past, right?
I guess.
Well, if COVID didn't happen, we would have continued wherever we were at.
We were at the time, right? Yeah.
Inflation.
Because no packages would have to be signed.
No stimulus package, no. It would have, or let's say it never came to America. Maybe inflation would have gone up a little bit because maybe America had to help other countries or something.
The goods had to be transported from
maybe
to another.
But if there was no COVID at all, probably all this craziness would have not happened, right? But as you mentioned earlier on, inflation is a wave. Goes up, goes down, goes up. And the Federal Reserve Bank, they're the ones that are studying the economy.
And it usually goes, I imagine, in small waves. But we had an immense peak, an immense wave. We had like a tsunami come through, and that's what affected like the imbalance of, because it's normal for the inflation to go up, to go down, to go up, to go down. It's normal for that. But when it reaches this in a sense, earthquake, and it causes inflation to rise up, is when it just ruins the economy to a certain extent, and that's when the Federal Reserve has to make a decision
on how we're going to fix this, basically. Correct. And I would also say that...
I wonder who controls it.
Control what?
Federal Reserve. Like, is there a name behind it?
Well, the Federal Reserve is a privatized institution. So I think that tells you a lot already.
Wow.
Oh, that's a... Oof.
What was the one I want to use? How... not coincidental, but... Private... it just makes it like sus. Or...
Well, it's powerful people that control the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, like it's private. Oh, we can't say any names and stuff like that.
No, we know who the names are. If you do your research and you see who are the people in charge, who started it, which families. But I feel like we could definitely do an episode on that. Like, how did the Federal Reserve start? Okay. Is it crooked or not? We could definitely do an episode on that.
Okay,
because that's his whole history. It's fascinating, but it's crazy how it started and what it does and its power and how it does
it's
it.
Like it's other form of government in a sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And there's special people with special power. Well, not like superheroes, but they have access to a lot of things. And there's very rich families that control that. And they're the ones that are deciding what happens in the economy. But every country has some form of like central bank. Some countries are just better than other ones with the Federal Reserve. America, during the Great Depression, it was horrible, obviously, in the 20s and 30s. But yeah, we could do definitely a whole other episode on that.
Gotcha.
But I wrote a chart, and I just think this is good to have in mind. When interest rates are low, people borrow more. When people borrow more, people save less. Okay? People spend more. When people spend more, there's more demand than supply, as you said earlier.
Yeah.
Prices go up, and then inflation goes up. And then when it comes to a point where it's too high, the Federal Reserve is like, all right, let's bring it down a notch. Let's make interest rates go up. So if you want to make inflation go down, you got to make access to money harder, more expensive. Because then people spend less money and then everything has to go down. Because when there's high interest rates, people borrow less, there's less spending, people become more frugal, people save more money, people spend less, there's more supply but less demand because people are not buying as much, prices decrease, and then inflation goes down. So that's the way we got to look at it. If you look at the interest rates, you can have a good idea. Okay, people are spending more. Okay, so if interest rates are really low, I should take advantage, save as much as I can or get as much money as I can cheaply, buy assets that do well against inflation. And let me have those assets. Because to be honest, people who do well during inflation are rich people or people who are upper middle class who own assets that do well against inflation.
Right.
People that get screwed over when there's high inflation are poor people and people like retired people who are on a fixed income.
Yeah, usually there was an article that I actually read on CNBC, how inflation is eroding purchasing power. Yes. And it talked about how the individuals with the fixed incomes are the ones that are it's affecting the most. Why? Because they, what do they depend on? They depend on their Social Security benefits.
Yes.
And some of them depend on their pension, depending on what they did in their life, right? But that wasn't keeping up with inflation. It was like the purchasing power. It was just, let's say they're making, what's the average? Like $1,000 through Social Security.
I actually don't know. I haven't.
I've heard around.
Really?
Yeah. Depending since when you've been paying taxes.
Correct. All right. So let's say, for example, it's $1,000.
It's $1,000, and your pension. Either way, pension is not really a
thing anymore.
But let's say you do have a pension. Let's say it's another $1,000, $2,000, which is
$2,000 a month. That's nothing.
Nothing compared to you got to pay rent, transportation. If you got a car, your food.
And that's not like including like recreational things.
That's not even you having fun.
No, this is just you paying basic stuff.
Basic stuff just to survive and staying at home. Other than that, those are the people that suffer the most.
Yes.
So I would say for the middle class or for the poor people, obviously take advantage of when inflation is low.
Yes.
Therefore, it prepares you when inflation is high.
Yes.
That's either buying assets, and we've talked about before, that could be gold, right?
Yes.
We wouldn't have to get into it now, but obviously policy and all that.
Real estate, yeah.
Real estate. If you get it during inflation while it's low, while inflation is high, you're not affected by it.
Correct.
save money, all that. So you would have to just pay attention at what the interest rates are and make a decision, smart decision during what time is best to buy. Depending on the time.
100%. And now that you mentioned that, I just want to mention this book. I love this book, and you love this book, The Blueprint to Financial Freedom, by 𝘳𝘳𝘁𝘍𝘳, by the company Wealth Dynamics. They actually talk a lot about these things.
Right.
So please, guys, if order the book. Order the book. We'll have a link down there in the comments or in the description. Click on the link and buy the book. It's not expensive. I think it's like $10, and you'll learn a lot on how to make sure that you're doing well during inflation. So yeah, The Blueprint to Financial Freedom.
Or not even during inflation.
Correct, or even not during inflation. But I would say this. I would say if people want to hedge against it, like make sure that they're not as affected, I would say, first of all, read the book. Well, obviously read the book, but I would say open up a whole life insurance policy. Now, to be honest, whole life insurance policy obviously is not an investment. It's just a tool, right? It's a vehicle, right? But it's not an investment.
It's your own bank.
What?
It's your own bank.
Your own bank.
Yeah.
That's the secret to protecting yourself from inflation. And maybe you can add some thoughts, is to create your own banking system. Now, I will say, only having a whole life insurance is not the strongest thing to fight against inflation. It's not.
Of course.
What's stronger is gold and real estate, as you mentioned.
Yes.
But if you have your own banking system and your money is working 2 or 3 times as hard for you, and you keep it within your own economy doing your own system, right? Like you save as much money, or let's say when inflation was low, you borrowed, you had access to cheap money, you take the money, you put into the whole life insurance policy, you borrow it out, maybe you get rid of your high interest debt, or you buy a bunch of gold. I'm not saying to put only money in gold. You want to diversify in smart investments, which is, just buy physical gold. You can even lease out your gold, but that's a different conversation.
Yeah, it's a lot right now.
Yeah, right now it's too much. And buy real estate, because real estate, right? Like during COVID, I don't know if you remember.
A lot of people, yeah.
Home prices went up. Home prices didn't go down. So if you had properties, the value of your properties went up. It's interesting. The owners of the properties, it went up as the owner, because that's your property.
Yeah.
But the people that were renting, the rents went up higher, right? Because inflation makes home prices go up too.
Yeah. Like
rent and stuff. So for the renter, everything was going up, right? But the person who owns it, the property value goes up higher, right? So clearly, we just saw this. If you own properties, you own some gold, right? And you have a whole life insurance policy, that money is going to be stable, right? It's going to be stable, right? You'll have access to your money quickly, right? Because that's the thing too. During high inflation, what happens?
Well, you run the risk with the banks.
Correct. Yeah. Why? You do run because why? When there's high inflation, what happens to banks and loans and money and stuff?
It gets harder to borrow. To get, right? Now having access to your money, it could get into question. All right.
Wait, what do you mean by that? The first part, you're 100%, but what did you mean by the second part?
Meaning, like, I know, I forget if this happened during the Great Depression or during the recession, but
up to 2008, right?
Yeah, 2008, where you would try to get your money and you couldn't.
Oh, God. Okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yes.
That's why they invented the FDIC, which protects $250,000.
Correct.
At least in your bank account, in case something goes bad, they at least have to give you back $250,000. But if you have more than that, you lose it.
Cool. Yeah. Oh, okay, I see what you're talking about. So that, I think that's called. I think the expression is called a bank run, where it's like everyone comes and withdraws their money because they're freaking out, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so
that wouldn't be a cause of that. Wouldn't be inflation if it goes too high.
I'm not. That's a good question. I'm not sure. But what I would say, like, for example, I don't know. I think it was a year ago, that bank in California. I forgot what was it called.
Bank. I forget.
No, it was a huge bank. It was a business bank, actually. The Valley Bank, no, not Valley Bank. It was.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
where the bank failed, right?
I read it.
What happened? People heard rumors about the bank was in debt, was going out of business. Everyone freaked out, and there was a bank run. Everyone started withdrawing money, and they lost a lot, right?
Yeah.
But you're right. There was a point where it was like the bank wouldn't give people back their money.
Yeah.
So yes, if you have your own life insurance policy, you don't run that risk because it's your own money. You'll always have access to it. But I was also going to say, because you have your own banking system, you always have access to the money. Even if the economy, inflation is high or low, you'll always have access to your own banking system because it's your banking system. You're not relying on an external bank. You're not relying on these big banks if they want to give you or not, right? Because when inflation is high, it's harder to borrow, right?
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to go to other banks because you have your own banking system.
Exactly, yeah.
So no matter what's happening in the economy, you always have money for an emergency, for whatever's happening, or a good deal comes up when inflation is low,
right? Yeah.
And everything is low. You already have your money. You can start buying assets that go well against inflation. So you got to have your own banking system, and it's actually not so complicated. You have your own. I have our own. We're working on it together. We're building.
We're gonna have much more too.
We have a lot more. we're building already. So people have to have their own banking system, save money, have that active income, hustle to make more money, whatever that means. That we've spoken about this, and we could do more episodes on this. Buy assets to hedge against inflation.
Imagine we were doing what we were doing during COVID.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we started it once COVID had calmed down a little bit. That's when we started. Yeah. I know. Yeah, I wish I would have already. Wow, it would have been great.
Because everything was low. Oof.
I think that's when my dad bought his real estate investment property during COVID.
Yeah.
Because everything was so cheap. The interest rates were so cheap, he was able to buy something.
Sure got a line of credit during that.
Yeah, you should have gotten a line of credit. But you have one now, so it's fine. You have one, you got a nice, good one, but you're also building your own banking system too. Oh, you want more? Of course. I also want more. So I think that's super important. What?
That's why I think my dad also bought the house.
During COVID?
A little bit after. Maybe prices were still down. It was 2021.
Interest rates were down.
2020, 2021, around there when he bought the house.
Interest rates were down. Things were cheaper. There was more money.
Yeah, he bought it 2020, 2021, I believe.
21? So it was perfect timing.
2021, around there. Yeah.
That was perfect timing then.
I see why. Yeah. Plus good credit, all that, whatever.
But I think you hit it. I think if you study the Federal Reserve and you see what they're doing, you can tell what's happening in the economy, and you can make your decision of buying, of selling, of buying more assets. This is the right time, right? This is the right time to buy. So later on, when inflation does go up, because you're right, it's going to happen at some point.
Yeah.
Right now, inflation is going down. Right, and interest rates are going to start to go down. I think it's September. Supposedly, that's what I read. It's going down. It's going to start, but it's going to go down slowly.
Of course,
slowly,
periodically, yeah.
Slowly, right? Slowly go down, and then as time continues, the economy, right? Interest rates go down. The economy will start to boom.
And we'll finally get back to.
And we'll start to get back to normal, hopefully. And then that's when you and I will make our smart decisions.
We're timing it correctly.
So, in conclusion, what would you be your last words to teach people about inflation and what to do?
Well, when it comes to inflation, I would definitely tell people to not really overcomplicate it. Yeah. Just get to understand what inflation is, right? We understand that is when prices go up and the services or the goods that are provided to the country goes down, right?
No, goes up.
Goes up, right? So that being the case, you can also look more into what's happening worldwide, right? Right now, we have the case of Ukraine, and that's, putting a little bit of
definitely putting a strain.
Yeah, a strain on inflation, and see what is causing it, but understand what inflation is, but also understand that there are a lot of things you don't have control. And like you don't have control of that, you must act right. You must act upon what you can control. And what you can control is the income you make. What you can control is the budget, your budget, right? What you can control is the money that you're going to invest during that time. While you understand inflation, you know when to invest, right? And I feel like if you're capable of doing all those three things, you'll be able to survive during inflation.